Natural Evening Look 2. Foundation. Let's start with a clean canvas to assure a clear and flawless complexion. I always start by choosing the right shade for the skin. Most people have different skin tones with different levels of hues. Make sure to properly choose the best shade and do a cheek test to assure you have properly matched the skin tone. Prior to using my sponge for blending, I always start by using a brush to apply the base onto the face in a dabbing motion. Dotting heavier levels of foundation onto the exact areas of the face will give you extra coverage in a specific area that needs more coverage. This will assure that the face to look more balanced and have an overall better coverage. I always make sure to use a base as an eye primer for the shadow. I tend to use silicone base as my favorite formulation. I find that it agrees with most skin type and allows me to build extra coverage without using additional products. Most eye primers are actually made of clear silicone, so this will work perfectly and also will help save an extra step. I am using a beauty blender as my choice of sponge. However, you can always use a foundation brush, as well as your fingers or a triangle sponge. Honestly, I tend to use it all for different purposes. I often use my fingers as a spot treatment to build up on the areas that need more coverage, like on a blemish or dark circles underneath the eye. I find that using fingers blends without overblending. Face setting. Make sure to lightly set the face with a translucent powder using a triangle sponge. Be mindful and make sure not to over powder, as you will get a chance to do a final set after the full makeup application is completed. This is very important. Make sure to get into that area that is hard to get with a brush, like under the eyes and around the temple, nose, and chin. Foundation tips. Clean canvas. Always start with a clean canvas to assure a clear and flawless complexion. Color matching. Always start by choosing the right shade for the skin. Brush application. Use a brush to apply the foundation prior to using a sponge for blending. Sponge blending. Always blend with the sponge along the hairline and onto the neck. Conceal. I use my fingers as a spot treatment to build up on the areas that need more coverage. Face setting. Never set all of the face, just parts of it. The eyelids and cheeks need to have a primer to assure proper level of pigment when you apply blushers, highlights, and eyeshadows. Eyeshadow. I always start with highlight powder on the brow bone area. I work my brush to pull in towards the inner part of the bridge of the nose. This model's eyes are more close set. This technique gives the illusion of pulling her eyes out rather than closing in. Remember, in shadows and light technique, light pulls out, dark pulls in. It's important to visualize the look onto the model's face before you start any makeup application. I'm using deep purples as my choice of colors. To apply the shadow for this look, I'm using a flathead brush to lay the shadow pigment onto the lid area. The flathead brush will help add more pigment and intensity compared to a fluffy full head rounded brush. Remember, full rounded head brushes are only good for highlighting and blending, not for intensity, strength, and tone. It is important to keep the under eye area clean of any fallout while doing your shadow application. Here's the trick. You can always use an ample amount of loose powder and lay it onto the surface of the skin underneath the eye. You can brush the powder off with the fallout debris once you are finished with your eyeshadow application. Also, you can use a tissue as a guard. As I'm adding the main color, I'm also creating the angle and shape of the eyeshadow. This will create the style of the application. This eye look I'm doing is considered an angled smoky eye application, a great look for any special occasion. As you will see, I always work on both eyes at the same time to assure balance. Going back and forth not only saves time, but also keeps the balance and symmetry. Please be mindful that these techniques are not about color, but understanding the technique. You can translate the same application technique using different color schemes. That is up to you to be the artist and pick the different hues and tones. So stay focused mainly on the techniques. I am using a medium full head blending brush in the mid crease to blend the colors together. With this type of application, you will have to keep blending and building a few times, as this will take a few steps to get the overall effect and intensity to where it needs to be. With this type of application look, you will have to keep building and blending a few times. This look will take a few steps to get the overall effect and intensity to where it needs to be. Remember, be patient. Rome was not built in a day. I'm using a different small powder brush with a bit of translucent powder in order to remove any fallout from the shadow. I also use my fingers to blend. This gives a better tool to get a smoother blended look without taking too much color away. I'm using the flathead rectangle brush to apply a black liner look. I'm using black shadow to give the eyes a more smoky and intense look. I carefully apply it along the lash line. You can use a pencil or a gel. I find using shadows are much easier to blend and create a nice smudge effect. For a look like this, I recommend it. With a blending brush, I'm smoothing and blending down the eyes to soften the harshness of the black, yet allowing the intensity to still be at center stage. This look is a bit challenging, so you may have to practice this a few times before getting it to the place you want it to look. This will assure that you will have a better roadmap and know exactly how your final end product will look like. Eyeshadow tips. Highlight. Always start with the highlight powder on the brow bone area before working on the lid and any darker color. Shadow. Use a flathead brush to lay the shadow onto the lid area. The flathead brush will help add more pigment and intensity. Lash line. Use a flathead rectangle brush to apply a black liner look. Use a highly pigmented black shadow to give the eyes a more smoky and intense look. Mid-crease. Use a medium round head blending brush in the mid-crease to blend the colors together. You will have to keep building and blending, as this look will take a few steps in order to get the overall effect and intensity to where it needs to be. Eyebrows. Make sure to have the eyebrows groomed and shaped before drawing them in. You can use hard brow pencils, gels, or brow mascara. I'm using a hard-pressed brow shadow. In my opinion, I get better control and it tends to look more natural. The brow color should be the same color of the darkest hair color on the head. I use short strokes along the brow line, and then I use a toothbrush shaped brush to blend along the hairs of the brows. Eyebrow tips. Tools. Having the right tools goes a long way. Using the right brush for the brows is vital, so make sure you have the proper shape brush. Shape. Make sure to have the eyebrows groomed and shaped before drawing them in. Shading. The brow color should be the same color of the darkest hair color on the head. Cheeks. Always pick out the shade and highlight prior to applying. Have the model suck her cheeks in, or as I say, make like a fish, and apply the darker blush or contour in the area that sinks in. It is vital to use a good brush to assure that it looks smooth and blended. I apply the highlight cheek powder along the ledge of the cheekbone, bridge of the nose, and along the temple and jawline. Contour and highlighting tips. Position. Have the model suck in her cheeks, or as I say, make like a fish, and apply the dark blush or contour in the area that sinks in. Application. Always pick out the shade and highlight products prior to applying. You will need a blusher brush and a highlight blusher brush. Blending. It is vital to use a good brush to assure that it looks smooth and blended. Mascara. Make sure to pick out the best shape brush and color formulation. This will assure the effect of the lashes will be perfect to the look. I'm using a full head brush and jet black mascara. There are so many different products and formulations. Choose the best type that will suit the level and effect you will need to achieve. I always start with the lower lashes. This will help from the lashes to stay drier and less smudging. Always have your model look the opposite direction to where the brush is. Have your model look down when doing the upper lashes and look up when doing the lower lashes. Mascara tips. Brush. Make sure to pick out the best shaped brush. This will assure that the effect of the lashes will be perfect to the look. Product. There's so many different products and formulation. Choose the best type that will suit the level and effect you will need to achieve. Eye positioning. Always have your model look the opposite direction to where the brush is. Have your model look down when doing the upper lashes and look up when doing the lower lashes. Lash application. I always start with the lower lashes. This will help from lashes to stay drier and less smudging. Lip color. Make sure the lips are always conditioned and smooth before applying the lip color. Make sure you have a good lip brush. This can make a huge difference in your application. A good brush is a great investment. For this look, I'm using a deep violet purple lip color. Have your model smile when applying the lip color. This will assure that you will get a better position and angle of the lip line for a clean and balanced application. I always have my concealer brush with a bit of foundation on standby. This will help with immediate cleanups and smudges. Don't rush when doing the lips. This is an area that will take practice. Here's a trick. Remember that the darker the color, the more difficult it is to get a perfect application. If your model has thin lips, it's always better to go lighter than darker. Luminescent than matte. A formulation that has shimmer and gloss is a plus too. This will assure a fuller lip effect. Lip tips. Condition. Make sure the lips are always conditioned and smooth before applying the lip color. Shape. Have your model smile when applying the lip color. This will assure that you will get a better position and angle of the lip line for a clean and balanced application. Color. Remember, the darker the color, the more difficult it is to get a perfect application on thinner lips. Use a color and proper formulation that suits the shape of the lip. Product. Know the shape of the lip and the best way to bring out the best in the shape by using proper color and product. Brush. Make sure to have a good lip brush. This can make a huge difference in your application. Application. If your model has thin lips, always better to go lighter than darker. A formulation that has shimmer and gloss is a plus too. This will assure a fuller lip effect. Roadmap. Always visualize the look prior to starting the application process. This will assure a smoother roadmap to your final end result. Prep. Have all your products ready and make sure the skin and lips are conditioned before starting your makeup application. Application. Please be mindful that these techniques that I am demonstrating are not about color, but understanding the overall technique. You can translate the same application technique as well as any other looks by using different color schemes. Balance. During your application process, it is best to stop and look at the face from the center of the face. Look at both sides of the eyes, cheeks, and lips. Do they look balanced? If not, make sure to do your adjustments. I always do both eyes at the same time to help with the balance. Setting. Setting the face is the final finish of the application. Unlike setting the first step after foundation, this is the process where you can set the entire face except the lips and lashes to seal the look. You can use a large fluffy powder brush or a face paddle brush and use a sheer neutral set translucent powder. Gently go over the entire face and set and blend the application. This will assure the makeup will stay in place.